Welcome back. In a watch, the mechanism that keeps time and controls the hands is called the movement. Premium watches typically use very intricate mechanical movements. Such watches are made up of a multitude of components, requiring hundreds of manufacturing and assembly operations, all of which, of course, take time. The main section of the watch case starts out as a block of metal, stainless steel for this model. A press stamps the initial shape, which is finalized by a computer-guided milling machine. Another computer-guided machine drills holes on the side for the stem and crown, the manual watch winding mechanism. This tool refines the edges. Next, using an abrasive tool, they etch the surface to give it a brushed metal finish. Then they apply a polishing compound to a felt buffing wheel and polish the entire surface. Certain models undergo a second polishing, which is done by a robot. The two other parts of the watch case are the back and the bezel, which is the ring that goes around the face. They're made in the same way as this main section. To produce the movement, they cut a square brass plate and stamp it into the initial shape. This computer-guided mill then refines it to the correct thickness. The next computer-guided machine makes several slots and holes. This part, called the main plate, is where all the movement's components will be assembled. The milling process leaves behind traces of metal dust and oil on the surface, so the main plate is thoroughly washed with water and solvent. Once dry, a computerized inspection device examines the plate from 3 dimensions, verifying that every last detail is precisely as it should be. The last machine cuts the final circular shape. The main plate is now technically perfect. Only finishing steps remain. First, they sandblast the surface to remove tool marks and give it an even matte finish. Here's what the plate looks like before sandblasting and after. Another computer-guided tool etches tiny circles onto the main plate surface to produce a pearl effect. The next component, called the bridge, covers most of the parts assembled onto the main plate, and itself holds a number of parts. After a laser engraves the company name, the lettering is filled with varnish. They put the bridge into a machine, which etches a brushed finish and wipes off the varnish. Some varnish remains inside the letters, making them more visible. Next, a robot sets a jewel into each hole in the main plate. The jewels are tiny synthetic rubies. Each jewel will hold one of the movement's moving parts in a drop of lubricating oil. After installing 2 barrels, each containing a spring, the watchmaker positions 4 wheels. These form the gear train which moves the hands of the watch. Next, he mounts the auxiliary main plate on top. This sandwiches the barrels and gear train, holding them in place. Then the regulating mechanism, which is called the escapement. Winding the watch fully coils the springs inside the barrels. The escapement paces the springs as they slowly unwind. Now a robot takes over, squirting a drop of oil over each jewel. Meanwhile, a laser engraves the watch brand name and logo into the oscillating weight. This component is a heavy metal disc, which is first stamped in a press, then refined by high-precision computer-guided tools. The oscillating weight is an automatic winding mechanism. This weight, located at the back of the movement, automatically winds the watch as it's on your wrist. Therefore, the more often you wear the watch, the less often you have to wind it manually, therefore saving you valuable time. The watchmaker connects the oscillating weight to the springs, which move the gear train. This means the weight will shift backwards and forwards with any wrist movement, automatically coiling the springs. On the front side of the movement, he screws in the date indicator and the dial. The dial is comprised of two brass plates. The top is coated in oxidized copper and has cutouts to show the bottom one, which is painted with glow-in-the-dark pigments. Next, a machine mounts the brass hour and minute hands. This operation is automated because applying even slightly too much pressure could damage the delicate hands. Now for the watch case. After twisting the bezel onto the front of the main case, he slides a plastic gasket into it, then positions the main case onto a press. He cleans the crystal, then presses it into the bezel. The gasket seals the tiny gap between the crystal and the bezel so that water can't seep inside the case. Next, the stem and crown. Then on the back of the case, he fits the casing circle, a ring that comes between the movement and the case. Here too, a gasket seals the gap to make the case water resistant. He installs the ring and crystal, which form the back of the case. He applies grease so that it twists on smoothly. He closes it tightly. Then the fully assembled case goes off to be tested for water resistance. If it passes, it comes back to the watchmaker who fits the movement. He removes the crown and the back of the case, cleans the movement, then places it in the case. Next, he squirts grease in the crown hole and reinstalls the crown. Because the movement's in place, the stem now connects to the two springs, so that turning the crown winds them. The watchmaker fixes the movement in the case with several tiny clamps and screws. Then he closes up the back for the last time. After checking that the movement works properly, he has just one last component to fit on the watch head. This watch company has developed a protective device which goes over the crown. A computer-guided mill shapes it from the same type of metal as the case, so that it blends seamlessly. The watchmaker screws the device to the case, so that it bridges the crown. The device has a lever, which the watchmaker carefully adjusts with the help of this gauge. The lever closes the device tightly over the crown, immobilizing it so that it can't be turned accidentally. Finally, they mount the watch head on a machine, which closes the back tightly. This is critical for water resistance. Every single watch head this factory manufactures must pass several quality control tests to ensure timekeeping accuracy and water resistance. For water resistance, they first test using air pressure. Then, water tests. First, a low pressure test in 10 centimeters of water. Then a high pressure test that simulates 375 meters of water. This far exceeds the 300-meter depth to which the watch is guaranteed to be water resistant. Finally, it's time to assemble and attach the watch strap. In this case, a link bracelet in matching metal. A fitting finale to this luxury wristwatch, the elegant product of precision technology and, of course, time-honored tradition. Oh, that reminds me. It's time for us to go.